it's going to be less than what you're paying the utility now and what you will be paying the utility in the future. Because the utility rates, historically, in the last 15 years, they've gone up between 4 and 5% per year. There is no magic. There's no magic is going to happen and they're suddenly going to start on a downward trend. So, that's unfortunately. So the best you can do is control costs. It's kind of like, remember when you had to, remember in the bad old days, for people that had landlines, when you had to pay rent on your telephone, anybody remember that? You paid per month. And then suddenly people realized that if you paid, even if it was only a small amount and you paid that for 20 years, that was a darned expensive telephone and you could go down and buy one instead. So now everybody does that. So we're going to fix our costs. ETM, so we are the installers. We do design and installation. And we are partnering with Sunvestment, and they are financing people. A lot of places are doing this kind of thing. And it's not just for the pot-smoking hippies anymore. There's big name stores that are going solar. And Walmart, surprisingly, Walmart is one of the biggest participants in the whole solar movement. I was flying into, I think it was Washington, D.C., and I saw an IKEA store that had solar panels all over it. So lots and lots of these big name companies are going solar. And why are they doing that? To fix cost. That's what it's all about. That's why they're doing it. They wouldn't be doing it for any other reason. So the incentive levels are going down, which makes now a really good time to go solar. Okay, so Mike, you want to come and say a few words about the finance side?
Sure.
So this is Mike Roach from Sunvestment.
So forward.
Gotcha.
All right, so thanks everybody, and I want to just take a minute to recognize Gay. I think we're pretty fortunate, at least those in the solar industry, we kind of recognize the benefit of having a long-time champion in the solar industry with the passion that Gay has. So very much appreciate that. So Gay is right. There's kind of an alignment happening right now between the very favorable incentive program that's offered by NYSERDA, the price on solar having come down very far, especially in the past 4 years. It's fallen like a stone.
Stick this on.
Additionally to that, other factors as well, the low cost of capital. So it's kind of an alignment that won't be there forever, but it exists right now. And it's one of those things where the window of opportunity is open, and those who act get the best benefit over time as the program gets traction on its own. The incentives are pulled back. Folks who get in maybe get less, and then eventually the incentives go away, and it kind of hits scale and it runs on its own. So it's actually, New York is considered one of the 2 best states in the country for solar. It's actually New York and Maryland currently. Other states, New Jersey had a great program for a time, then it went quiet, and it's coming back. So there is some movement there, but New York is recognized to have a wonderful program. And part of that is because where other states, they've attempted to build a marketplace where these credits, SRECs they're called, solar renewable energy credits, would be traded on an open market. And the value on those is up and down based on the need, supply and demand, on companies who want to offset their carbon emissions. Well, this is one way they can do that. They can source renewable energy credits. Well, the problem with that is, of course, it is supply and demand. So if there's a lot of SRECs in the market and industry or whomever who purchased them is satisfied their need, the value comes down. Conversely, when they're needed and there's fewer in the market, the price goes up. But that's a little bit of a roller coaster. So from an investment standpoint, that kind of unpredictability is not favorable. The benefit in New York, instead of an SREC market, they have this NYSERDA grant, which is a cash grant right on the front end of the project for a residential, for programs, for projects that are under 200 kilowatts. the program is a cash grant up front. For those larger than 200 kilowatt systems, there is still a portion of it comes on the front end. The remainder comes based on the production, how many kilowatt hours are generated over the first 2 years. So still, either way, it adds predictability to the market, and so investors like that. So as Gay had said, the benefits that come from a solar project, the NYSERDA grant, the federal tax credit, and for residential there is a state tax credit capped at $5,000, and for commercial entities the depreciation. So that's all well and good if you are a tax-paying entity. But with those structures kind of all being geared to being tax-based, what that does, I think is kind of an unintended consequence, is it left non-tax-paying entities on the sidelines because they cannot monetize those tax credits. So that nonprofit organizations, municipalities, and others who are not able to monetize the tax credits, so the project doesn't pencil out nearly as well. A solution or a workaround for that has been a traditional power purchase agreement. And going here, back up.
That first one was your summary of, yeah.
Okay, so a traditional power purchase agreement, essentially a third party would own the array. And it would be located on the roof that Gay has looked at, or in other cases it might be a ground-mounted system. Wherever, of course, solar, there's half a dozen different ways to get there, but it all starts with a sunny place. So wherever that sunny place is, on a south-facing roof or a east or west-facing roof that is not too steep of a pitch, works quite well. A ground-mounted system. What's perfect about ground-mounted is you can control the angle and you can control the azimuth. So you can point it 180 degrees south and not be subject to the orientation of the building. So that's helpful. In the case of a power purchase agreement, you as a site host are entering into agreement to only purchase power, only purchase energy, the electricity that is delivered. Different than, say, a lease, in that a lease is typically going to have a fixed monthly payment. And you'll know what that is every month. But it is not at all related to how much energy is delivered from the system. So on the summer months, we've got a lot of energy delivered, maybe more so than the lease payment. So we're saying, okay, this is great, this is good. Well, conversely, in the winter, where the system is delivering less power, you have to buy that, you have to make that up somewhere, and of course you're buying that from the utility. So in that situation, you still have to make that lease payment, but you have to buy all that electricity that you need that the solar did not deliver because it was cloudy in the winter. So seemingly a bit more favorable to the site host, in this case the town, to have it as you pay for energy as energy is delivered, as it goes through that meter that is out there counting those kilowatt hours. That's what you're buying. So if it's a cloudy period, we get less energy from the solar. You're paying less because you're only paying for what is delivered. So that has existed for quite some time in the energy industry. What Sunvestment Group has done, and this is we've actually, let me get to the right slide, bear with me here. We actually brought the concept to NYSERDA, and because NYSERDA was running a program, they're saying, okay, solar panels have come down in price so far, how do we get the rest of the stuff to come down in price so that we're getting ever closer to grid parity and below grid parity, depending where you're located. So the Sunvestment concept was, okay, a traditional power purchase agreement brings in an investor. And traditionally, where would you go for investors? You'll go to the money centers. So you might go to Wall Street or Houston or San Francisco, some financial center, and tap an investor, and they would vet the project, and the deal goes forward. Well, the downside of that is, of course, that investor, he's interested, he has his agenda, he's interested in his portfolio and his investors in his group. not necessarily at all invested in our community. So that is money that, as a town, we're going to buy electricity. So we're sending that money out the door every month anyway, as it is. What the Sunvestment platform does, it said, okay, well, investors, and by the way, investors do quite well in these solar investments. They're showing a 9% after-tax unleveraged return. That's really, by the time you pre-tax, that's in the teens. Add leverage to that, they're probably in the 20s on the return on their investment. So they're doing quite well. So the Sunvestment platform says, well, could we do the traditional PPA one better, or maybe two better, in a couple of different ways? If our municipality is going to spend that money anyway, could we find local investment who would be willing to get involved and provide capital for the system and have a steady stream of income from that? Because as a municipality, we're going to buy that electricity, we're sending that money every month. Rather than sending it to that Wall Street investor, why not send it to a local address? Maybe the LLC is made of local community members, businesses that are able to take the tax credits, monetize the tax credits. And we've also found oftentimes local residents might be willing to take slightly less of a return, because it means if the municipality's operating expenses are controlled, that directly related to taxes, right? Because if our energy costs go up, that money has to come from somewhere. It's going to come from the taxpayers. So it's kind of closes the loop, if you will. It's kind of like the low food miles for energy. Rather than buying tomatoes that come from 3,000 miles across the country, why would I do that when I can buy them from the farm down the road and get better tomatoes, and that money stays local in the community? So that's the concept. NYSERDA heard us out. They found the idea very compelling, and they said, we like it and we want to see it developed. We are not going to support it if it's developed just for your own company. We'd like to see it developed for the use all across the state. And so that is the plan. The Sunvestment platform will be an online platform that essentially matches projects with investment opportunities and vice versa. It's kind of a clearinghouse or an information center, if you will, where businesses, individuals can, if they have a project that they want to get funded, they could come here and register that project. Alternately, investors could look at offering a menu of projects and decide if there was an alignment there, if something that they wanted to get behind. So that is in our opinion, that's what makes it better. If we can take that monthly expenditure for energy that is going out the door anyway and keep that right local in the community. So that's really the Sunvestment side of it. And we have found there's kind of a pent-up demand for among municipalities who have said, show us how to do this. We want to do this. We've looked at the numbers before. It didn't work for us to purchase it. Actually, we had one municipality in the North Country who did look. Initially, their position was they thought they wanted to purchase it. It's the idea was if we bring in a third-party investor, we've got to share that value. The problem with that was the municipality was not able to monetize those tax credits, and they are significant. It's 30% federal tax credit, no cap. And it's the depreciation benefits that come, the life of a solar panel, they are warranted for power production, 80% of their original day one power production at year 25. So there's a lot of life in there. The accelerated depreciation that applies to solar is actually 5 years. So an investor, whether it's a traditional investor, a community investor, much of the value can come back out of the project very early. In fact, you get 20-some% in the first year on the depreciation, 30% in the second year. So after the first 2 years, you're able to depreciate 50% of that system. And also, while at the same time taking the 30% federal tax credit, can be taken in year one, or it can be spread out over time. So that's,
So, you want me to run through an example?
yeah, let's do that if we could.
So I'll run through an example from another town that we're working on. We were just visiting last night. Get back on here. Program Opportunity Notice, which is NYSERDA speak for RFP, a request for proposal. They have to be different. You know, they can't just call it a request for proposal, no. They had to come up with a whole new word. So thank you, Mike. That was excellent. I just love this community PPA idea because it keeps money in the community. So there's a lot of, they've done already a bunch of projects with nonprofits and municipalities. So the other thing I like is that for a couple of years, I had a lot of municipalities coming to me and they really didn't need huge systems. They needed 100 kilowatts, 200 kilowatts. And the traditional investors for PPAs just didn't want to be bothered with those small projects. So it was just no, 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 no. Well, the community PPA model allows for the smaller projects because the investors are not requiring as large of a return on investment, but it's still lucrative. I mean, you know, it's, what is it, Mike, like 9 to 15% depending on the project?
Exactly.
So, you know, compared to where else they might be keeping their money. If you're a business and you got some money, where is it? It's in the bank, it's in the stock market, it's probably not doing that well. So this is an example project. This is actually 150 kilowatts. It's on yet another town garage. And the total system cost started out at $396,000. The town was paying 9.7 cents a kilowatt hour. And even if you just did a traditional PPA, if you could do a traditional PPA, the rate was going to be less than what they're paying now on day one, which is going to be 8.2 cents. So they're going to have savings on year one, and then if they go to a community PPA, that savings is even more. I think there's a chart in here for that. So so traditional PPA, their savings was going to be 15% less that they're paying for their electricity, and if they went to a community PPA, they could approximately double that savings. Now there's some other angles on this. Some towns are able to borrow money at a really, really low rate. So if they could do that and prepay for some of their electricity, then that would make it even cheaper overall for them to do that. Not every municipality can do that, but a few of them can. So this is a way of getting solar electricity, no upfront costs, and it's cheaper on day one than what you're paying now. Sweet. This is a little layout of how it kind of works. There's the host site. There's a solar PPA LLC, which is your collection of investors. And the Sunvestment people are the guys that go out and find these investors. And what we would do as people in the town here is think about, well, who should we ask? You know, what businesses are there that are local that might be able to participate? But the town board or the committee or whoever would not have to be the ones going to talk to those people. It would be the Sunvestment folks doing that. And then those investors get to take all these tax things, and ETM, what do we do? Well, we install it and we maintain it. Okay. So, and we're fairly local. I mean, we're down in Endicott, and the investors get to make money on their money. So it's like sweet for everybody. It's a nice win-win for everybody. There's some more details about who does what. That if we do a full proposal, you'll get a nice book with all the gory details in it. Who does what? For example, the host site uses the energy. They pay a fixed discounted rate over 20 years. They have, at the end of the power purchase agreement, after the end of 20 years, they could call us up and say, okay, we're done with it, take it away. Or they could renew their power purchase agreement, or they could buy it outright for some pre-agreed upon amount. And the Sunvestment people, and the Sunvestment group, which would actually in this case be the Sunvestment folks and ETM are going to build the array, oversee the maintenance, collect payments, that kind of stuff. And the investors own the array. They get income from it. They get tax they get tax advantages from it. Okay, so there's details on who does what, how it all works together. Okay, that's like way too many words on the slide. So if you really want to know all the gory details, there's an actual power purchase contract that's, I don't know, what is it, like 15 pages long. So
all of that.
it spells everything out. So everything's spelled out up front. But here's a really interesting thing. This particular project, so here's the top cost, the NYSERDA grant, and then, you know, you may have to pay tax on your NYSERDA grant. That's possible, depending on the situation. The 30% tax credit, in this case, the 5-year depreciation was worth $161,000, so that was pretty hefty. So this top amount here got whittled down 84% from the top cost. So that's pretty good. That's the power of being able to take advantage of all your tax credits. The break-even point in that case is like 4 years. So, yeah, 4 years. And over the course of 30 years, the value of that energy for that $60,000 that ended up being kind of your bottom line cost was $715,000. In other words, if you didn't go solar and you keep paying the utility over 30 years, this is what you're going to pay. You know, and usually that's what kind of gets people's attention. It's like, if I don't do it, there's a pretty steep penalty. Cumulative savings, and this is just a little graph showing, well, here's what the utility is kind of doing now. It could be a little shallower, it's probably going to be steeper, and here's what my power purchase agreement does for me.
Can I explain just a little bit on this, Kate?
Go for it.
Essentially what we've done is we've looked at long-term trends on utility pricing, what has happened. Our crystal ball is not perfect, and so we don't know what utility rates are going to do going forward. Our best reference is to look back and see what the trend lines show. So what we've done here is we've modeled now, as Gay had said, between 4 and 5%. 3.5%, 4.5%, so we're in there. So when we do the modeling, what we've done here is we've modeled if utility prices increase 2.5%. That's this line here. The red line is 3.5%, and the top line is 4.5%. So we don't know exactly what utility pricing is going to do, but we're very confident it's going to be in this range. The green line, of course, is solar, and what the takeaway here is you're starting out on day one at a lower price per kilowatt hour than the utility. In addition to that, going forward, that utility escalation, historically 3.5%, 4.5%, is higher than the escalation we've got in the model. This example is a 2% escalator. So it's less on day one, and it climbs at a shallower rate than the utility has and presumably will going forward. So savings on day one, and all that distance, the gap there between the utility and the solar, as you see, it grows over time by how much, depends on what the utility does, but all of that is savings, all of that is value to the municipality.
And that means you don't have to raise the taxes to pay for your utility bill. All right, that's very important to municipalities. I think we're close to the end here, so yeah, so I think that's it. All right. And, oh yeah, we had a huge solar energy spill today, right? I'm from Endicott. Endicott's a land of spills. You know, we have the IBM spill and the tannery spill and the dry cleaning spill. And if you think that some industry is going to come in here and not make a mess, you're kidding yourself. And they're going to leave you to clean it up. So, but a solar energy spill, I think we can live with that.